meeting. I think it'll probably be a short meeting anyway, but the folks that are here and part of the committee being Dan, Craig, and Marty, do you wish to wait longer, or do you want to just kind of get started with the overview and run through it quick?
I'd say let's get going.
Yeah, let's get going.
All right. Sounds good. So I would move to open the meeting at 7:05. And so the order of business, first, I guess we'll record who is here with our roll call. Dave Hemingway, chairperson. Russell Tatro, who is our assistant town administrator. And let's see, Dan Nudd.
Here.
Marty Bender. He was muted, but I think I saw him say here.
And I'm here.
Yeah, I'm here.
And Craig Fournier just said he's here as well. Missing are Sue Roth and Betsy Janeway, and Dana Hadley, who I believe is having some internet troubles. He is one of our other administrators for the town. So that will be all falling to Russ for this particular meeting. Maybe we will hear from Dana later. So moving right along, approval of draft meeting minutes is usually our first thing. Let's make sure here. Let's see, we've got a total of 4 people, and that, yes, that will qualify as a quorum because the administrators do not count for requirements for that because they are not voting. So we do have a quorum and can move on. So I'll start with the draft meeting minutes. I sent them out. They're also on the website. These are for March 23rd, which was when we got the presentation from Olivewood about the maps. Does anybody have any comments or corrections to these?
I would like to change page 2, line 17. Dan Nudd asked Olivewood how Olivewood would plan to connect the properties. I believe I asked how Olivewood would plan to connect the power lines across the properties.
Okay, that sounds good. Do you have that, Russ?
Yep.
All right. And are there any other changes that folks had? I have a few to add afterwards. Okay, not hearing any. I'll jump into mine, most of which are pretty short and easy. Page 1, line 37 and 38. It's a reimbursement agreement with the for the town, and that should read a reimbursement agreement with the town. Page 1, line 46. Olivewood planned continue to help. There should be a 2 in there for Olivewood planned to continue to help. Page 2, line 1, that there would many future. That should read that there would be many future. Let's see. Page 2, line 48, Energy Committee was, is, be working on. That'll be Energy Committee will also be working on. And then the only one that is a somewhat substantial change to possible meaning is page 2, line 10, that currently reads the access road to the property. And that should read the northeast property and how it was to be accessed. So those are my changes that I see in there. Are there any comments or no, we shouldn't do that for any of those changes? All right, seeing none, that looks pretty good. And I sent those over to Russ so he would have them recorded. That's why I went through mine a little bit more quickly, knowing that he wouldn't have to write them all down. So I'd like to welcome Dana. Thank you for making it. I heard you had some internet troubles. Probably a fairly short meeting. And I will point out that we do have somebody with JG listed as the initials here. Obviously, they are not necessarily a member of the subcommittee, but I do want to recognize that they are here and give them an opportunity to identify themselves if they wish to, noting that they are currently muted. All right, does not appear that they wish to at this time, which is fine. I would move that we adopt the meeting minutes for March 23rd, 2021 as amended.
I'll second the motion.
All right, roll call. Myself, yes. Dan Nudd,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Marty Vender.
Yes.
All right, so the meeting minutes pass. That will move us on to the general business, which is to be the report from boards, committees, and commissions. Since we have Craig here, I will allow him to, or I would request that Craig give us the update from the planning board side of things, and maybe a quick short spiel about the planning board and the changes that we are seeing as well. So that
Well,
give him a little bit of a floor there.
I guess you know about the Conservation Commission has employed a specialist. I've forgotten his name. He's going to come.
Rick Vanderpool.
Yeah, Rick Vanderpool. He's going to come and look at the ecology of the site. There's going to be an on-site visit, and it's going to be open to whoever wants to go. And I'm not going to be there, but if you're interested, I think David can fill you in with the details about that. Other than that, there's not much going on. We've had Sue Roth and Lynn Marie Lehman have resigned from the planning board. So we're looking for new members for the planning board. And if you know of anybody, please let me know or let Russell Tatro know. Because it's important that we have a full board and an alternate or two. And it just is a way of pitching it. It involves one meeting a month and occasional trips out to the field to look at lot lines and driveways and boundaries and proposals. So anyway, that's it. I don't have anything more to offer about the solar project, really.
All right. So the short version of the planning board overview of it was we took a look at all the maps and basically said, yep, these looked to be accurate, and what they're saying they're doing with setbacks and similar do match what our current ordinances and zoning regulations and so forth say. The choice for who was going to be, because we asked each board and commission to decide one person to come with for the walk that was mentioned last week as well, last month. And the planning board decided that with the changes of the board, they actually wanted me to represent the planning board for that. One of the things that's nice means that there's an open spot if someone here wants to go and be part of that when we walk. That will be that walk with Rick Vanderpool and the wetland scientists from Olivewood, along with Olivewood themselves, to go show the locations and basically make sure that what they're saying is what's actually on the ground, and let Rick talk with them for the most part, make sure it's accurate. That is the primary purpose of this particular walk. So, and it is not a giant open to everybody kind of walk. We're not requesting to try and get a crowd at this time to walk through and to all of the little wetlands and stuff on the properties. but we will be able to talk about that in a moment. The report from the Conservation Commission, who unfortunately we don't appear to have a member here this evening. Dan had mentioned that he would try to come. He is, of course, not on the solar subcommittee, but is the chair of the Conservation Commission. And since we don't have a member from there, I'll just read his correspondence. It says, "Thanks for the notice. I'll try to attend. I regret that the WCC was not able to take this up at our last meeting. We spent the entire time trying to finalize the wetlands ordinance as something where we were able to do. So we will not be able to take this up until the May meeting." And that is talking about looking at the maps and the wetlands delineations and so forth that had been provided by Olivewood last month. So unfortunately, we also don't, without a representative from them, I don't know who or if they talked about choosing a representative to join on the walk with Olivewood. I expect that that walk will be getting scheduled sometime within the next couple weeks for sometime during next month. But I don't have more details other than that at this time. So that pretty much gets us through our agenda. I told you it would be quick. I just wasn't expecting it to be quite this quick. I will note a extra piece of information. I got a call from Olivewood saying that we may see their name pop up again. There is another town a little bit to the north of us that is most likely going to be entering into a similarly large agreement with them. And they expect that that will happen probably within the next couple weeks or so. And the reason for letting us know is that the pilot is similar, but shaped differently. And what that means is the proposed pilot with them, based on the way that that town wanted it to be, it starts off flat for several years, but then gets the percentage increase like we have in ours for the entire time. It does mean that the initial payments will look higher, but overall the money is actually less than if it were done the way that ours is structured. So something to keep in mind when you see, or if we see some news of that show up in the near future.
Do we know what town this is?
That has not been made any sort of public notice that I'm aware of. So.
Is this
Well,
gonna
when
be- Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, when it does get public, I think it'd be worthwhile getting a contact up there and coordinating with them.
I think that would be a good idea. Yes.
I was just asking, is this going to be as big a project?
It will actually be slightly larger. I don't remember. I know he told me the number. I don't remember it off the top of my head. I want to say it's somewhere just over 100 megawatts.
So are we in competition with this other town?
I don't believe so, because we already have a signed agreement, even though it isn't expanded yet to this sort of thing. So I don't believe there's really competition. And at this point in time, everybody's trying to develop solar everywhere. So I think it's less of a competition and more of a, we just want to do as much as we can.
Okay, I hear that. But I guess what I'm worried about is they say, oh, it might be easier to start up in X town. And sort of we get left in the dust here.
Well, I don't think we're going to have a problem with that. I believe they've been working with the other town longer than they've been working with ours, but we're actually further along in the process. So in theory, that's good things for us, even if it were competition. But again, I don't believe it is.
Okay.
So that brings us to kind of this in our agenda, setting the next meeting. I'm not really sure what I want to do with this because we're not really expecting a lot more information from Olivewood. I would expect that sometime next month we'll have the walk, but I don't have a date. And I don't want to end up scheduled like the same day of or just before the walk for our meeting. And we will hopefully also have the information from the Conservation Commission at that time, looking at the maps. So I'm thinking that maybe we skip next month and go for the month after for our meeting scheduling, just to not waste people's time. One of the other options would be to try diving into the pilot more and understand that more fully, but that would require us to be doing plenty of research on how the financials of the pilot work. It's easy to look at and get what the revenue from a pilot will be. It's not easy to look at and say, this is what the expectations of outlay for the town will be as a result. And so I do plan to look at that in detail in the near future, but I'm certainly not comfortable even remotely trying to start explaining that as of yet. So I guess I leave that open to question what people feel. And do you want to try to dive into that for a next meeting next month, or do you want to take a month off since we are basically waiting on information and seeing how the walk goes?
Well, one thought I had was that the state, my understanding, my elementary understanding, because I don't really know, is the state taxes this commercial venture. And I'd be interested to know how they tax it, how they evaluate what the gross income is, net income, how do they tax it basically? And one option instead of the pilot that we have would be to piggyback on top of the state tax. In other words, so if they evaluate, it sounds to me like periodically they would have to look at the financials of this and determine what the tax is going to be. So it's an ongoing process instead of a flat thing that we have currently. So that's one thought. The other thought that I have is, if Olivewood's going to undertake this project with 2 towns, that's a significant increase in financial money to do 2 projects. Is Olivewood capable of that? I mean, I don't know.
So the way that I would phrase that is, think of Olivewood as the designer and developer, and generally there's somebody that will finance the project. And that may or may not be the same people. Sometimes that may be the company itself, for example, Olivewood. I don't know their details for that back end. We could certainly ask them. But
well, I mean, that's certainly a question that the site evaluation committee will ask.
Yeah, and one of the things that's important to note is that while we don't have one now, by the time that this gets into SEC decision-making process, there will be a full economic impact survey that they will have had to have completed and submitted along with their other SEC information.
So do we have any idea when they're going to apply to the SEC and when that would all happen?
Well, they had given us somewhat of their hopeful timeline, but they, in my understanding of brief talks with Michael Kaplan, they're basically still waiting on Fish and Game at this point, who is kind of changing the rules as they go along. Fish and Game at this point is starting to say that they don't want to provide any feedback until there's an application and they're already deep into the SEC process, which of course makes it weird because they want to be able to adjust anything if needed beforehand. So we'll have to see where that is and the timelines of it. They're of course doing everything in a way that they expect Fish and Game will have no problems with. But they're still waiting to see where that's going to be. So we're still waiting to hear from them how that's going to end up and what the real timeline will be.
Okay.
So we are still looking at setting the next meeting. Did you want to, I guess let's just do a vote here. If you want to try and schedule one for next month, let me know by a show of hands.
Well, I'd be in favor of it if we had some business to take care of. And then there was something substantial to talk about. Otherwise, let's not meet.
All right. So let's see, if we were doing it next month, that looks like it would be probably the 18th. No, planning board is the 20th. So it would be the 25th. So it would actually be the last Tuesday of the month. In order to make sure that it was after all of the boards and commissions meetings. Whereas if we skipped next month, planning board is actually the 17th, which is usually the last of the meetings. So we could do it on the 22nd. So the difference is about 4 weeks.
Well, why don't we wait 2 weeks before we make that decision? I mean, do we have to make that right now?
I guess we don't necessarily have to. We could basically set it up so that we would schedule the next meeting next month and then cancel it again, kind of like we did once before. Though I'm, again, not thinking that we'll have all that much to talk about unless we have a report from Vanderpool of the results of the walk.
Aren't we supposed to walk with Dom sometime in May? That was what he was saying. I'm not talking with the environmental person that we're hiring. So would we want to have the meeting after the walk?
Yeah, so that walk is supposed to be one person from each of the board's committees, along with Dom and their scientist folks, and with our wetlands and nature scientist, which is Rick Vanderpool.
Well, it should
for
be
the
also
town.
the solar committee too.
So
I think my own opinion is that everybody is interested should go.
On the walk.
Yeah, sure.
I agree. I would like to go on the walk. I understand Dom's point on COVID, but at this point, most of us can get vaccinated if we wanted to. So.
well, and we certainly have a way to handle that for the solar subcommittee, and us all basically all being able to go. Marty is of course here requested because of both the Energy Committee and the ZBA, and Craig is here from Planning Board, as am I, although Craig has mentioned that he wasn't really interested in going on the walk. And so Dan, you could go as the representative from the solar subcommittee. Marty could go as a representative of, say, the Energy Committee, and we would still have somebody that would be coming from the Conservation Commission as well, and also a select board member that could come, even sticking with the individual one per, like was requested initially.
Do you know if Rick Vanderpool is going to give a written report or something like that?
I assume that he will either provide a written report or give a presentation at the next Conservation Commission meeting after that. I have not talked with him directly to know that, though.
That would be a good question for Dan Moran, maybe.
Mhm. And again, I was hoping that they would have discussed more of this at their meeting, but they're not going to until next month, so. All right.
So do you have any idea when this walk is going to be?
Unfortunately, we don't. We should be hearing about scheduling it with the interested folks and the assigned folks from each of the groups. And so in theory, that starts happening either this week or next week, that we'll start getting that scheduled for next month. But I don't have a particular time as of now. So I guess the best way to do it is to, does anybody have a problem with May 25th or June 22nd for our next meetings? And if we don't have information available, then we will cancel the next meeting.
Both those dates are good for me.
All right.
Yeah, same here.
So May 25th, you said?
Yes.
I'm okay.
And then June 22nd.
Yep, okay.
All right. So hearing no issues, we'll set those as our next two meeting dates with a possible cancellation of the next one if we have not gotten significant information to discuss.
Sounds good.
That brings us to public comment and then any further business. So we have one public that's here listed as JG. Did you want to comment or say anything else? You are still currently muted, if so.
No, thank you very much.
All right, thank you for coming and attending. I think that concludes it unless anyone else has anything they'd like to say or ask. All right, seeing none, I would make a motion that we adjourn at 7:33.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you for coming. Sorry it was less substantive than we anticipated.
Thank you,
Have a
David.
wonderful night.
All right, thanks.
You
Night,
as well.
everybody.
Night.